All right, another edition of Riding Home. Make sure that you're checking out our Instagram page. I'm making sure that everybody's seeing this, Ryan. It's right in the middle right now. Let's talk about practice for the first practice for the dogs that we've seen publicly in a while. Part of that spring practice. What'd you see? What'd you make about today?
You got anywhere you want me to start?
I would start with the offensive line.
Offensive line. It looked like we have a tentative first unit. There was definitely a clear five that was going first. Going from left to right, Broderick Jones, Xavier Truss, Cedric Van Pran, Warren Erickson, Warren McClendon.
Warren Erickson on the right hand side.
The
Okay.
right guard. Yeah, that was that was definitely the number one unit. I had 58 as the backup center. I had 77 as the backup right guard, and I had Amarius Mims as the backup right tackle.
Yeah, and it's I was going to say it's the first practice. It's not the first practice,
Yeah.
but it's one of the beginning of practices that exists. That's curious. I mean, it makes sense. Like, right? I mean, if Erickson, you could in theory, Ryan, say that Erickson is holding that spot down, or maybe he's trying to compete with Tate Ratledge for it. Tate can't be out there,
Well, this is Erickson's opportunity to compete for that spot. His
right?
best opportunity to compete for that
Right.
spot while Tate's not out there. Um, but yeah, as far as like a raw talent standpoint goes, I mean, Tate Ratledge is when he's healthy is going to come in and try to fight for that spot back, and that may be a likely scenario. But for now, it's if the season started today, it's Warren Erickson. Obviously, the season will start for a while.
Yeah, we got a little ways to go before we get to that. Again, everybody, make sure that you're checking out our other social channels, our Instagram pages, dog.post. All right, Ryan, I don't know how much of the defensive line you got a chance to take a look at.
I watched them. They weren't doing a drill to where you could kind of determine depth
Right,
chart order, but
right,
I mean Zion Logue's a big dude.
right.
Michael Williams was wearing number 13. It looked like. Um, of course, Jalen Carter. That's the guy I expect to make the biggest impact on the line this year. I think that's probably a popular answer too. Um, couple numbers I didn't recognize. There's some new faces to put some numbers and faces together this year. So just trying to figure out who some of the freshmen might be too, because they handed us a roster. None of the freshmen had numbers on it, of
And they
course.
always give you the roster like right before you're walking out there, which
Yeah,
is a little
right,
ridiculous.
right. I'm like trying to fold it up and put it in my pocket because I'm not looking at it. But I mean, Michael Williams looks good. I think the talk of the town last week was that Zion Logue is someone to watch out for this coming year.
Right.
Warren Brinson's, I think, a name that's going to be mixed in there definitely. He just off the glance, I mean, he's just as big as Zion Logue. So
Well, Brinson is a guy that you kind of forget about after a while, to be honest with you. I mean, it's
exactly,
it's one of
yeah,
those things that uh, he played plenty, but not so much that you would be like, oh yeah, Warren Brinson. But he played a lot actually, and helped them get to the national
yeah,
championship. Um, just the size of the team. Tell everybody what else that you missed, I guess, or what else is missing from everything.
yeah. Well, there was a small group of injured players that were kind of just hanging out inside. Players that just weren't practicing. And Darnell Washington had one of those rolly carts where his left leg is on it,
Yeah,
so he's
yeah,
walking with his right leg, his
yeah.
knees on it. Brock Bowers was in that group. Smile Mondon was in that group. Lad McConkey was in that group. Um, at least for a minute there. I didn't see him back out there with the receivers after that. And then Barry Alexander, I believe he's wearing
He's
99.
out right now.
I think that was Barry Alexander. So that was just a group that just wasn't practicing. Dan Jackson was wearing a non-contact jersey today. Chris Smith was wearing a contact jersey, but it was pretty clear that something was bothering him. He looked a little slow. He was going last in a lot of the drills for the defensive backs.
Hmm.
So I don't know exactly what's going on, but it looked like to me that Chris Smith might be dealing with something. Um, but I mean, you had Keely as far as defensive backs go. You had Keely Ringo, Javon Bullard was up there in that depth chart with him. William Poole was up there with him, and then right after that, you had Nyland Green and number 6. Don't want to assume, but I think it was Dalen Everett. There's still some numbers to put in place. But I tried to take a look at every position group. It looked like inside linebackers, JDJ, Jamon Pop is what they're calling him, Jamon Dumas Johnson. It looks like he is fighting for a starting spot. And Jalen Walker, the 5-star freshman,
Right.
he was wearing number 11. He was right there with him.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement, and there's a lot of movement on this team. I'm watching what I'm seeing. You can't see it right now, but make sure folks get DAWGSTRUCTION. You've been seeing the Instagram feed running through here, showing that there you were for a second there, Ryan. We'll get Kirby later tonight, Stetson later tonight, in theory, right? I mean, probably I would say definitely get Kirby, but the
That's the
question,
plan.
right? This is practice 4 for them, so they're not quite a third of the way through spring ball, and uh, you can start figuring some things out. But a lot of what you just repeated there's going to be opportunities for younger guys. There's going to be some mix and matching, like for instance, the offensive line you see or you saw today may or may not be what they're doing, although it sounds a lot like what they're doing. I just, spring football is one of these things that you should trust it only so much, I would say. And I've just learned
Yeah.
that through the years.
Yeah. Some of it. I mean, like the offensive line. Like, obviously that group of 5. I mean, there wasn't really any eye poppers out of that. That seemed kind of about what we were going to get with the
Yeah.
injuries at hand. Quarterbacks. It was Stetson, Carson, Brock, Gunner.
Right.
Running
Yeah.
backs.
Nothing.
It was Kenny, Kendall, Dejan, and then Vaughn Clark. But we expect that to be Branson Robinson come summer and fall. Receivers, pretty standard. Arian Smith was the only one in a non-contact jersey, so that's kind of to be expected. But he was out there
He's
running
got
around.
they got to
He's got
get
to get
him
healthy.
healthy for a 15-game season, and we've seen what he can do. I mean, the guy has nothing but trouble if you can get him healthy, and that's important. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean he has game-changing speed, and that's someone that they're gonna need to work on.
Yeah, game-changing speed is one way to put
Game
it.
changes. Yeah, they just working on getting him out there is the best. I mean, we're talking about one of the faster people in the world in
Right.
Arian Smith. I mean, we're talking about Olympic type speed, and not a lot of people can guard that. And we've seen him get the deep touchdowns, but I think we're going to see a mixture of A.D. Mitchell and Lad McConkey and Kyrus Jackson and a lot of that. Tight ends, obviously with Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington not practicing. You saw Eric Gilbert and Oscar Delp. Oscar Delp looks just fluid. It looks like effortless flow in the way he's
Yeah.
turning and the way he just gets upfield. I thought that he looked a little faster than Eric. I know. I mean,
How
we
was
know that Eric
Gilbert?
was away for. He looked good. I mean, the dude, he's a physical presence.
Yeah.
It looked to me like he was a little bit bigger than Oscar Delp, and we know Oscar's about 6'4", 6'5". It looked to me like Eric was a little taller, or Eric Arik. I've heard Kirby say both. I have no idea what to call him now. But that's. I heard. Was it just me,
Just
or last week did he call them both by
I
both
can't I
names?
don't I'm going to take your word for it, but I mean I got you. You just
And
call
if
him
you can
Gilbert.
hear him chirping in the background, he's screaming
Thankfully,
pretty loud.
thankfully I cannot. I have experienced that, and for people who are just like they don't. So Ryan is not so far from where football is, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you can be at baseball and hear
Yeah.
Kirby over the loudspeaker, and it's just what it is. Like I'm 100% certain there's some sort of sound ordinance being broken every day at practice for Georgia, but
Hey, that's
that's
my
just the way
favorite
it is.
part.
That's just the way it is.
Uh,
That's the way they have their practices. They've got it. If you're not familiar with Athens, there's an area. It's residential in many ways, just north of where Kirby and company practice every day. It's called Five Points.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's north. But anyway, just not that far away. Maybe
it would be northeast of 5 points.
a golf drive, right? I mean, not far. And you're in Five Points, which is where a lot of fraternities, well, sororities are now. And it's a lot of noise. And Kirby is very active, I would say, on practice days. But hey, go ahead,
Microphone.
Yeah, I mean,
He's the guy on the mic. He's the guy on the
my
mic.
coach in college did not have a microphone in the late '90s or mid to late '90s. I guess we could have done that, but there's nothing wrong with coaches who have real passion, and that's what Kirby's got. I'm watching this, man. You can't see it. This is a reel that we did on Instagram, and it's about Keely Ringo. It says, "Will Keely Ringo have a big game?" Well, as it turns out, he did have a pretty big game in the national championship game. Did you watch the defense in any way beyond the defensive line?
Yeah, outside linebackers, I think Nolan Smith is going to be the leader of that group. Robert Beal and
Yeah.
MK Sherman were right there with them. I think those are going to be, and Chaz Chambliss. I think it's going to be a rotation of those four guys at outside linebacker. I think that we're going to see a lot more Chaz Chambliss this coming season. We saw him kind of have some big moments. I think everyone remembers that big hit in the Orange Bowl that got
Yeah.
called a flag. But I think that's a guy that we could really see, with Channing Tindall gone, Adam Anderson, big question mark. Quay Walker that kind of played an inside-outside role. There's some time to be filled. There's time to be filled all over the defense, but that's a place where I think MK Sherman, Chaz Chambliss, and Robert Beal are going to get a lot more snaps. I think Nolan Smith going to play a similar role to what he did last year. I mean, he was a big part of that rotation. But those three names are, I think, outside linebacker names we need to be paying attention to heading into the fall and heading into G-Day too.
You are mistakenly calling MJ Sherman MK Sherman, but
MJ
that's
Sherman, Mikhail Sherman.
Mikal. Yeah, right. But
Mikhail.
here's a thing about the group that you just talked about. Um, Robert Beal obviously led the team in sacks this past year. It would not surprise me for Chaz Chambliss to have a significant amount of sacks in 2022. He is an exceptional player in terms of rushing the passer. What he can do beyond that, I don't know. I know one thing. The first time I saw the guy go, I was there to watch Kevin Swint, who people may or may not know. He's probably still at Clemson right now, and Chaz Chambliss was a freshman on Carrollton's team, and boom, you could see him attack the quarterback. It was the real deal. And then saw him play at Collins Hill, I think soon thereafter, and when he played at Collins Hill with Carrollton, same thing. The guy can attack the passer, so he's a great pass rusher. Robert Beal, obviously coming back, should be the leader on that front. But I mean, does Nolan Smith have a big year? There's a lot
I think
going.
Nolan Smith needs a big year.
Yeah,
I think if
yeah, it'd
there's
be
someone on
nice.
this team that needs a big year, it's probably Nolan Smith. You come in, you're the number one, number two recruit, depending on who you ask. And it's just been a little lackluster. You saw Trayvon Walker Trayvon Walker is probably going to go top 10 in the draft.
Yeah.
You just kind of got outshined a little bit over the course of your career at Georgia. And I think that this is an opportunity for Nolan Smith to make that statement and have that signature season. And I mean, any one of those guys are capable of double-digit sacks. It doesn't
Well,
happen a
listen.
lot at Georgia because there's so many people
Right.
rotating. But that's something that Nolan Smith should be fighting for, in my opinion.
Here's what I would say on the Nolan front. Two things. Number one, if you have a year like Devontae Wyatt had, you're probably going in the top 50 of the draft. Okay, doesn't mean you're going to be a first round guy. You probably go top 50, top 60 players. Okay, that's the real deal. Secondly, that's just Devontae. I mean, when you look at the year that Jordan Davis had, I think he had a very good year. Nakobe Dean, I think, elevated himself this past year. There's not a lot of guys at Georgia that went backwards. So you're going to have a real opportunity if you're Nolan to move forward. All right, look, we're coming up on a time where you got to get to go see Kirby, so I want to make sure we get off of here. Make sure you pick it up DAWGSTRUCTION. Thanks to Ryan for being at practice today. We'll have Kirby and Stetson, etc. We'll see you on the website. Thanks for watching.